Hello, us lovelies. Today's episode will be about, well, just a whole load of random shit that they teach Jewish children in their religious classes. Let's get to it.
Lord Almighty.
This is Almighty Answers, and I am the Almighty. I were having a reet conversation with us most gladly Rabbi Toby Manywith, and we were chatting about all things those of the Hebrew faith learn at school. Well, she's well clever, and honestly telling me everything I already know because, well, I already know everything, including her takes on everything. But she weren't as audience. You lot are. Hooray! Anyway, let me tell you something. Parents are always banging on about how their kids don't want to go to religious school. It's boring. It's stupid. When am I ever going to need to know about cubits and showbread? And the parents just tell them, I suffered through it, you'll suffer through it, and if it all goes well, you'll force me grandkids to suffer through as well. Heh? Oh, imagine that. A parent wanting his child to suffer. Who would ever do such a thing? It's not the kids' fault, really. Have you heard the way they teach us book? I mean, honestly, I'd be bored too, and I'm the bloody author. Well, I'm the author of everything, really, and I quite like us work, to be honest. OK, there were a few mistakes. No, I am infallible and never err. But I opened up the ground and it swallowed most of them. Anyway, it's a good book, except for the bits that are beyond fucked up, but it makes for fun reading. Sometimes, except the way they teach it. They've left out all the good parts. I mean, take the story of Noah, for example. We tell kids that Noah were a nice guy and that God asked him to build a really big boat so he could save all of the animals. How sweet. Aww. Kids see adorable pictures of giraffes and elephants and chickens and alligators and mice all waiting patiently in line to get onto Ark, as if the crocodiles wouldn't have killed and eaten the chickens and the mice simply out of boredom. I mean, come on. And the elephants and giraffes for that matter too. Now don't get me started on all the dinosaurs not being in any of the drawings. I know. I guess Noah didn't save all the animals, did he? But that's a story for another time.
Where are the polar bears and koalas? Kangaroos? If it were a real worldwide flood, then wouldn't there be animals for all sorts of non-Israeli places? Ever wondered about that?
Oi! Who asked you, Holy Ghost? Anyway, that's a sweet story about global genocide, but let's face it, it's not exciting, is it? Do you know what's exciting and what kids love? Dinosaur Bones! That's the kind of thing that probably washed up on the shore with all the other animal and human bones once the rain stopped and the water receded. Yay for destruction! No wonder Noah got drunk just as soon as he possibly could. I mean, who can blame him? In any case, piles of bones are cool. I mean, who doesn't love the Indiana Jones movies? Well, except for Crystal Skull. Some people hated that one. But anyway, that part is usually not in the retelling. Too grisly for these wee dears, eh? I say teach 'em young. You know what else is left out, do you? Huh? Just what on us green earth was going on in Noah's town. Earth was such a terrible place that in the beginning of the 6th chapter of Gensis, not long after the Bible began, I were ready to scratch the whole thing and start fresh. Yay! I may have a penchant for that. Noah were righteous in his generation, and he and I made a nice connection. Somehow, after copying me words by hand so many times, the part about just what happened were left out. Us reet friend, famous biblical and Talmudic commentator Rashi, had it right when he mentioned that cows, sheep and chickens were not, shall we say, consorted with their own kind. They were shagging livestock. Speaking of consorting, here's something else people might find interesting. In Genesis, there's talk of sons of God knocking about with all of the beautiful women on earth. I bet you thought that stories about God having a son were only in the book that I like to call the sequel. Rashi tries to explain it away by saying that they were really princes or angels. He were a smart guy, but sometimes he got it wrong. Oh, I miss that guy. He were a great laugh. Could drink him under the table as well, tell you what. famous. It weren't only your sons who were misbehaving. A bit later, creatures called Nephilim, basically giants, also thought that Earth women were bloody brilliant. Their children were heroes, kind of like Aquaman or Wonder Woman, you know, half human, half otherworldly being. You might disagree over which is better, DC or Marvel, but here's one thing we can agree on. Lads and lasses, superheroes ain't boring, let alone half Nephilim children with superpowers. Yeah. There's so many more interesting bits and bobs in Bibile. Where to start? Where to start? Well, since we're already talking superheroes, here's one more. Don't worry, you scallywags, there's still plenty of time for sex and animals, though. Sorry to disappoint, I won't be talking about them in the same sentence. No. Back to it then. Where were we? Oh yeah, superheroes, yes. Samson were the last of 12 judges mentioned in the book of Judges. Samson had superhuman strength. He was so strong that he once killed a lion with his bare hands and fended off the Philistine army with the jawbone of an ass. Oh, not an ass bone of a jaw, because, well, that's preposterous, isn't it? He told everyone that his strength came from his long hair, but it actually came from a vow his mother made, promising that he would be faithful to me. At least the hair thing were a good gimmick, though. All right, Becky, with the good hair, that one were. Oh, yeah. We find Samson in the book of Judges, but we also find weird things in Bible, starting in 2nd chapter of Genesis. I know people make mistakes. The first humans are about to make a big one, but in the first 2 chapters of Genesis, the creation story happens twice. And in 2 different ways. Oh, did I create man before plants and animals, or after them? Huh? Did I create woman at the same time as man, or did she just putz out of a man's rib? It happened one way. Yes, Holy Ghost, I agree. How bloody hard is it to write that down, eh? Apparently, it's not as easy as it looks, because the daft writer did it again in the story of Joseph. Bloody hell. In pit or out at pit? Ishmaelites or Midianites? It's like they had one too many drinks from the wineskin before they started bloody writing. Dear me. People are willing to undertake serious scientific research as to whether the plagues of the Exodus story happened, but don't question a talking serpent. You what? Speaking of a talking serpent, have you ever heard of the Mandela Effect? It's named after us friend South African leader Nelson Mandela. The Mandela Effect is when most people are really sure of something that never happened. Like a story making a woman from a man's rib, for example. The Mandela Effect got its name when a psychic had really clear memories of him dying in jail in the 1980s. They were complete bollocks. He lived until 2013. Anyway, in any case, most people remember the fruit that the serpent asked Eve to eat being an apple. I never said that. I said fruit. If you've ever travelled to deserts of Middle East, you know that it isn't really a climate conducive to growing apples, is it? Lemons, maybe. Grapefruits, possibly. Olives, for sure. You can even enjoy a prickly pear if you're a brave sort. I give you a word as the creator of, well, everything, that there were no ruddy apple. Bunch of bollocks misinterpreting us perfect word, isn't it? Eh? Seriously, you lot hardly ever get anything right. It's a right fucking shit show, it is. And one more thing. Cain killed his only living brother, right? His folks had Seth, and suddenly Cain is worried about all the families of Earth and what'll happen to him when he's a-wondering. How are people supposed to take a book seriously when it starts like that? You'd think that the scribes would have written down a few more details. Men, women, lots and lots of babies. Could have been interesting, could have been racy. Bloody censors. Murder's okay, but sex isn't, apparently. What is this, America? No wonder the kids have lost interest. There'll be more on sex in a minute. For now, let's get back to talking animals. Who doesn't like a talking animal? The serpent isn't the only creature in the Bible. so to speak. In the story of Balak and Balaam, there's a talking ass. I know what you're thinking. Me Uncle Bob talks out of his ass all the time. Hey, Bob's your uncle. I'm here all day. Anyway, you're right. I've tried getting through to Uncle Bob. Since I quit smiting people, not much works, to be honest. Except for all the plagues. You're welcome, by the way. My pleasure. In any case, this ass were nothing like your Uncle Bob. This were a hairy, four-hooved burro. In Numbers, Balak, the king of Moab, employs Balaam, a non-Israelite prophet, to curse the Israelites who were camped on Moabite land. The Israelites fought and beat the last two enemies, and Balak is a bit nervous. Balaam doesn't really want to do it because he, true to his title, will only say what God, me, tells him to say. It takes some convincing, but he finally goes. When Balaam is on his way, God suspects that Balaam will try to curse the Israelites, so he sends an angel to stand in road. Now, Balaam can't see the angel, but clearly he isn't the only one with God-given powers, because the ass, I said ass, sees the angel and won't budge. Balaam is clearly annoyed and tries to get the ass to move. When he kicks too hard, the ass, it gets me every time, asks why he's getting a whopping. This poor ass, I can't help myself. No matter how hard he tries, by the way, Balaam can't curse the Israelites. Instead, he tells them they have nice tents. Which sounds a little like a come-on to me. The Israelites liked what he had to say so much that they made it a part of their everyday prayers. Take that. If you're looking for another prophet and animal story, you've come to the right place. In Kings, we read the story of Elisha, who was on his way to Bethel when some kids jeered him and called him Baldy. He was a bit. Elisha was sensitive, as many prophets are, so he cursed them, which, though not mature, would have been within the realm of the normal. I bet you didn't know there was road rage back then. Of course, Elisha couldn't stop there. In one sentence in the Bible, we learn that after cursing them, 2 mother bears came out of the nearby woods and tore apart 42 of the boys. Yay! Oh, I love me a bit of bloodshed. Gruesome, for sure, ain't it? Bloody sensitive, that Elisha, though, no? God, blimey. Although, at least he didn't run for president after his predecessor roasted him and buggered everything for the rest of you lot. Anyway, in Bible standards, it may be only slightly worse than having the earth swallow you up or turning into a pillar of salt for your wrongdoings. Of course, I did those things, and I'm not sorry. I have a well-known, all-powerful temper. I have a low tolerance of people implicating animals in their crimes. Just fess up and take some responsibility. Yeah. I also need to mention Jonah, who, Mandela Effect, were not in the belly of a whale. All I said were a big fish. But no one's comfortable with the unknown. I mean, whales aren't even ruddy fish, are they, you numpties? But people need specifics. Learn something from Buddhists and chill the sodding hell out. You don't need to question everything. Not only that, but Jonah cares much more about a plant that grew over his head one day than he did about the people in Nineveh. Basically, the people of Nineveh were terrible. Maybe not Noah generation terrible, but if they had dark alleys in Nineveh, you wouldn't want to meet the residents there, I'm telling you. I had mercy on the people and Jonah were right pissed off. But I'm God, so bugger him. Who the fuck is Jonah to tell me what to do, eh? God blimey. He was sitting in hot sun, waiting to see what would happen. He was sodding miserable because he still smelt like fish guts. He always smelled like fish guts, to be honest, because he didn't get his way and he was starting to get a headache. I made a plant grow because I couldn't stand the nattering, to be honest with you. He's lucky I didn't make it rain quail like I did when the Israelites complained in desert. You ever heard the phrase, it's raining cats and dogs? Well, I could do that if I wanted. I made it rain bloody toads and quails, didn't I? Anyway, he got shade after all the shade he were wanging at me, but I knew he weren't really satisfied, so I sent a worm to eat the vine. When the plant died, he wept. Wanker! What a wanker! Oh, aren't we all? Apart from me. One more little tidbit relating to animals. You can't wear clothes made of linen and wool. It's in us book. Twice even. In Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and boy, are those books judgy. let me tell you. You can't wear clothes made of only wool from sheep and lambs. You don't have to worry about camels, rabbits or goats. Go and try and find that at Ruddy H&M or Primark. You also only have to worry about linen from a flax plant. Why? I don't say, and I'm never saying. There are several laws in the Torah that I just expect you to follow with no good explanation, like when your parents say,
Because I said so.
where do you think they got that line? Oh dear. So many interesting things, and I haven't even gotten to the sex yet. The Bible has a whole list of relatives with whom you're not supposed to do the horizontal tango with, if you know what I mean. Here's the killer. It's forbidden for a man to take his brother's wife, and if he does, they'll be childless. Back then, children were like ruddy currency because people wanted to keep shagging and procreation justified it. Unless, of course, the brother, their first husband, dies while the couple is childless. Then the other brother must marry his sister-in-law. I mean, you couldn't make this shit up, could you? I like to keep 'em stooping lively, you know. There are big consequences for not following my commandments, apart from all the rashes and smiting I like to hand out on occasion. Leviticus 26, for example, will scare the shit out of anyone. I won't quote the whole thing, I'll just leave chapter 26, verse 29 right here.
You will eat the flesh of your sons, and you will eat the flesh of your daughters.
Sounds like a wicked barbecue to me. I hope there's mustard. If you're still thinking of doing the wrong thing after that, well, here's another good one for you. If your husband thinks you've been an adulterer but has no proof, a modern woman might tell him to shove it or get some therapy. In the book of Numbers, where a woman had very little say, there's a whole ritual to figure out if she really did it. It involves oaths and curses and a jealousy offering, but most importantly, water mixed with the dust off the floor. Yeah, the woman has to drink these bitter waters, and if she gets sick, it's proof enough that she were not watering the camels with other people, if you know what I mean. Shagging. Blimey, get with the programme. Oh, I almost forgot. Those kids who think religious school is boring but sit for hours reading every single sodding Harry Potter book. Well, the Bible has a witch too. In Samuel 1, Saul didn't know what strategy to use in battle against Philistines. He tried to reach me through prophets and some magical bollocks, but I prefer that people just talk to me straight, like praying to something that they can't see or hear, you know, the normal. In any case, he switched the witch of Endor like the moon with the sodding teddy bears. She summoned Samuel, done and done. Point being, my book also has a witch and talking snakes. Blimey. I just realised I should take all of that sweet Harry Potter money because it's essentially us book, isn't it? It really is. Plagiarism. It really is an interesting book. You should open it when you're done with all that critically important web surfing, of course. Wouldn't want to inconvenience you. Bugger that. Read the bloody thing! Unless you're watching us videos on this channel, then you should continue doing so, but read it anyway. In fact, I command you to continue sharing, subscribing, liking and leaving comments because... well, have you read that sodding book? This is way more gladly. That's today's episode, everybody, so thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Rabbi Toby Mannywith for engaging in conversation with us truly. She's a sweetie. Tatty bye, my loves. Tatty bye. See ya. Subscribe, that is, my children. Now share, like, and leave a comment. I get lonely sometimes and I love me some questions, and hey, remember, soon you'll be able to follow me on other social media channels. You will.